Okay, so I've called this chapter Balancing Vocabulary. Now this for me is the important one because you might have heard me or remembered me saying earlier that if you practice scales, you play scales. Now that's something I say to my students as a way of explaining that if a teacher that you've had has told you to just play scales up and down and up and down and up and down as part of your practice, why is it a surprise to you that when you come to improvise you play like this? You've practiced scales, so what do you expect yourself to play? Now, the reason I say that is because I'm trying to encourage my students to practice arpeggios as well. But you could make the same argument, right? Practice arpeggios, you play arpeggios. Essentially, whatever you practice, you're going to play. It's going to be part of your vocabulary when you're playing, improvising. So I came up with this cool little exercise to help us break out of these patterns, whereby we mix arpeggio and scale, because that's really what it's about. If you listen to someone like Charlie Parker play, there's a lot of verticality in his phrasing. He'll play a bit of scale, a bit of arpeggio, and he can ascend or descend, traverse huge amounts of the stave very quickly because the arpeggio allows you to do that. Let me give you an example of what I mean. I'll just play you an example and then I'll explain it. I'll break down what it is. I love this as an approach. So it sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now when I do that, I'm not just running scales or just running arpeggios, it's a mixture. So I came up with this exercise whereby you play 4 notes of arpeggio and 4 notes of scale, 4 notes of arpeggio, 4 notes of scale. And let me demonstrate that. So if I play 4 notes of G7, I would then continue but descend the scale. Then maybe I play 4 more notes of arpeggio, scale. 4 notes of arpeggio, scale. 4 notes of arpeggio, scale. Arpeggio, scale. Arpeggio, scale. Now, there's no set way of doing this. That's the beauty of it. You just have to get to grips with the arpeggios. The other reason I came up with this exercise is I found a lot of my students were brilliant at playing their scales from the bottom, brilliant at playing their arpeggios from their bottom. But if I said to you, cool, play it in the middle, wasn't there. They didn't have that knowledge of the notes that were there. This forces you to get that together. This forces you to play that and get it right. So let me just run up and down some in shape 1 of the G. And that would sound like this. Nice little exercise. I've tabbed out 4 bars of that for you just to give you a rough idea of how you can do this. It's such a good exercise, but it's one of those where I have to leave you to your own devices on it. But now I've presented you with the idea. It's something that you can work on. There are no rules. You don't have to ascend 4 notes and then down 4. You could go up 4 and then up 4. Up 4. Up 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, round and round and round you could go. However you choose to negotiate this, navigate this, better way of putting it, is okay with me. The important part is getting it down for all of our 3 chords again. So having it down here, having it down here, being able to play See what I've done there? I'm playing 4 notes of arpeggio, 4 notes of scale. It's a really hard brain exercise, and again, one that if I write it out for you in too much detail, you're kind of missing the point. It's not about learning the fingering, it's about being free to visualize arpeggio, scale as fast as possible. Let me do that in the A shape for you as well. So. And across all 3. It adds a degree of unpredictability to your playing. Well, I mean, say that. Your long-term goal is to not limit yourself to 4 notes of arpeggio, 4 notes of scale. You're freer to play whatever you need to do. 7 notes of scale, 6 notes of arpeggio, 2 notes of scale, 9 notes of arpeggio, 14 notes of scale, 112 notes of arpeggio. However your phrases take you. This should improve your fretboard knowledge. So I've got 1 short solo, 1 chorus of a blues where I use these concepts, trying to mix arpeggios and mix scales, balance vocabulary, not just running arpeggios, not just running scales, because hopefully if you go back now and you listen to just arpeggios, you'll go, sounds like the chord progression, but a bit cheesy. And likewise, scales, yeah, I guess it sounds like the chord progressions, but too waffly. We don't want any of that, so I'm gonna mix things up now and try and play some rhythmic stuff. So, cue the music and I will play for you. It sounds like this. So hopefully you can hear the outlines, the chord changes a lot tighter. Again, not the most inspired playing. Long term you want to be adding more blues phrasing, more Jimmy Herring. More blues in there, but as a starting point this is a good way to balance things out. So over my G7, moving to the C7, I play this. I send my G7 arpeggio, then down the scale, pull off to the B flat, which is the flat 7 of our C7 chord. So you can see that as arpeggio, arpeggio, scale. So G, C7. Over the G, I play minor pentatonic. And then blues scale with arpeggio at the end. Minor to major third. Over my C, arpeggio, right? And then descending scale. Landing on the our G7 chord, move up the arpeggio. And then scale. We have arpeggio for the D7, scale, arpeggio, scale, and then our lick, and then D7 arpeggio. Cool little solo that. Can be tricky to memorize, but the goal is, I guess, not to really memorize my solos, but to understand the concepts so you can hopefully go out and apply these to your own take on the blues. That one was composed, right? Obviously sat and composed that, but I could use the same approach and go, right, G, C, G, C, G, D, C, G, D, back to my G. So, you know, on the spot, spontaneous control of this stuff. So that's building vocabulary or balancing vocabulary. Very important that. Get to work, and then we'll come back and look at some minor chords. I'll see you there.